Hello, everyone. This is Valentina Rada, and we continue to talk about applied ethnography. This time, we are going to talk about analysis of qualitative text data, basic steps. So, really quick, the three concepts carry out discussions from this chapter are theory in applied ethnography, data analysis in ethnographic studies, and coding of the text data. So, most of us may believe that ethnographic research is an undertake for testing theoretical models or building theory. The fact is that applied ethnography research is basically descriptive and meant for practical use within the limited locations where the data gathering takes place. So, in other words, when we use applied ethnography, it's not necessarily to generate theory, but rather has the practical use to show and to analyze the behaviors of the cultures we are trying to analyze. Much of ethnography, especially applied ethnography, is intended to be explanatory description rather than theory building. For instance, one example would be what specific information about local beliefs and behaviors can we present to the healthcare people to help them combat morbidity and mortality in this specific population. So it's more of an explanatory description. It's, as I say, it's not necessarily meant to build theory. Palco also compares applied ethnography with abductive research as a mixture of inductive and deductive operations. If you look at page 214, you would see how the research has a certain sequence, and it would start first with an interesting problem that has been detected in a social program. Whatever that is, it's health, it's education, organizational culture. Then it's collecting data concerning the problem, looking for the most likely causes of the problem. What is that caused by? Collect more data and more cases. Look for expectations or negative results. Revise your causal hypothesis. I don't know, you can say that certain things can happen in certain situation and prove those right or wrong. And then the last step is to repeat the process until you have a well-developed model that seems to account for the data in that program situation. So keep this thought in mind. Applied ethnography is for practical use. It's explanatory, and it kind of marks down abductive research. It's compared to abductive research because of the mixture of inductive and deductive operations, which we described earlier. Okay, let's talk about data analysis in ethnographic studies. So, as you all know, in the case of quantitative research, the data analysis takes place after all interviews have been collected. In the case of applied ethnography, the data analysis starts when we're doing mapping or preliminary description of the study community and study population. So this is the initial step of data gathering. Or for instance, one of them would be collecting the local vocabulary. Early data gathering includes collection of list of behaviors, type of people, or reasons for certain actions. All this is called preliminary analysis. So in other words, in applied ethnography, analysis starts way before even interviewing. You have what's called preliminary analysis, so you have a clear background of the culture you are trying to analyze. Most of the ethnographic research involves some data gathering in certain phases, and you can see more details about those phases at page 204. So we start first with data gathering. Okay, we have our interviews, field notes, observations. We analyze. After we analyze, we can undertake more data gathering. Again, we analyze. And then we can have a final set of data gathering followed by a comprehensive analysis and writing the findings. So as you can see, it's an ongoing process till you really come up with some insightful findings. Now, the other thing is, the steps in data analysis. Steps in data analysis, again, you can find more details at page 208. The first step is to have a predefined categories of the study. Those will provide a useful format for the codes to use. At the same time, be prepared for new angles in new codes. So what did it mean by predefined categories? Based on what you're trying to analyze, you can have positive, negative behaviors. Let's say this will be like main two categories. And then based on that, you identify codes that would align to your categories. Then the second step, which is pretty important, not only in ethnography, but in general in all the qualitative research, is to include ample quotes from informants. And you would see that because that proves the veridicity of your information. Number three is to cross-tabulate the defined categories with socio-demographic variables such as age or education. And we talked about gathering socio-demographics when we talk about case interviews. That's the importance of having them. Then what do? We cross-tabulate those demographics with the predefined categories. In other words, we will be able that way to see what group of people have, let's say, the positive behavior versus the negative behaviors. So this cross-tabulation is very visual and kind of give you a lot of insights. Cross-tabulate each category with some different causes. And also through cross-tabulation, you can develop the profile or tentative model of a certain persona in your study. So you may, depending on the purpose of your study, but you may see like males age 30 plus have a more aggressive behavior, or they have to have a tendency of alcohol use. I'm just making this up, but it gives you an idea who particularly this kind of persona, how does it look like? Okay. And then let's look at coding text. Coding text data. First of all, let's outline what is the purpose of coding. Is to allow you to easily retrieve relevant pieces later when you're analyzing your data. So remember, your data is observation, field notes, interviews. It's messy. It's very messy. So this is the reason you want to produce some codes, so it's easier for you to reflect and to have some references on what a data says. And then at page 211, it's a nice process, if you want, of how to develop a code list. It says it starts with a list of 12 to 14 codes that reflect your basic reflection, your basic research plan. So let's say you can come up with codes like violence, drug use, or alcohol use. I'm just making those up. And then you start reading your first interviews and field notes, and you start inserting codes. Oh, this sounds like violence, or this based on what you capture from the interviews or your observations. Then you make sure that these codes, you group them by larger or more comprehensive categories. Okay, so let's say you have 12 to 14 codes at the beginning. Those will grow up, but then you want to come with like 4 or 5 categories. It says continue reading and rereading your interviews and field notes to see if there are complex interactions and unusual type of events that you have failed to code. So other than your basic list of codes, there might be something that's standing out. May not come that often, but stands out as something extraordinary that you would like to outline and bring it up into your insights and findings. You can always add codes later when you discover a need for a more complex code for a behavior or situation not previously coded. So usually what happens, you will be left with some codes that they don't fit anywhere. There are 2 options. Either you create a code for them, or you just address them in the existing codes. You map them in the existing codes. And then again, we talk about the codes from the informant, which we said that they are pertinent for all qualitative research. And the intent is to provide a glimpse of the raw data and kind of support your entire coding process. You want to have some, this is what informant said. So to give some support to the codes you are providing. Okay, so really quick, yeah, we talked about theory in applied ethnography, which is actually, the intent is not to necessarily be build theory, but actually is more for practical use. We also talk about data analysis and the preliminary analysis on life and the quantitative research. And we also talk about coding text data. And you will see that the process is pretty well explained at page 211 if you are curious about it. But let's close this with final questions. One is, what coding strategies do you think would relate to ethnographic inquiry? And the second one is, how would you handle any new codes or angles emerging from your first round of data analysis? Again, these are the references for creating this video. Appreciated you being engaged in this journey and look forward to your discussions. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you.